Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Poetry 1, course code 403, lecture 22. Today we are going to start with John Donne, whose time period extends from 1572 to 1631. He was present in a time when there was a decline of the Elizabethan age, because the Elizabethan age, it was towards the end of the Elizabethan age that he started writing his poetry. So there was the end of Elizabethan era. It was the period of political upheavals, political disturbance was there because of, and during these years the Queen was very concerned. She was careful about the unity of the country, and it was a period of religious disturbance also, and there was materialistic social attitude. All these characteristics and all these social and political and religious issues, we have discussed all these political, religious and social issues before starting with John Milton's age also, and we talked about all these issues in detail. If we have a little review of the earlier poems that we have read in this course, we have read about Geoffrey Chaucer, and he was a writer of the 14th century, and we read his poem Canterbury Tales, the prologue to his poem to the Canterbury Tales, and then we read The Faerie Queene by Edmund Spenser. He was a great Elizabethan poet. Then we read Paradise Lost by John Milton. He was a Puritan. Now in all these poets, the three of the poets, if we closely analyze, if we look at these poets and their ages, in the 14th century, when we discussed the prologue to the Canterbury Tales, in that we saw that there was a depiction of the 14th century society. There were certain conventions, and the writers, they went by those conventions. Those conventions are reflected in their works also, and moreover it is the depiction of the society, the social practices of the society. Then we talked about Edmund Spenser, the greatest of the Elizabethan poets. Then in his Faerie Queene, we saw that there were elements of Renaissance. The different social and religious elements were combined together in Faerie Queene. Then when we talked about John Milton, he was a Puritan, since Puritanism was a religious movement that was against the that was in reaction to the Renaissance. So we find the elements of Puritanism in Paradise Lost. So all these poems, since the poets that have been picked up, that have been included in this course, are the representative poets of their ages, so they represent their particular societies. Towards the end of the Elizabethan age, we saw that there were different schools of thought emerging. There were Cavalier poets, because there were different groups in the country. One were the Cavalier poets, on the other hand we had the Puritans, and there was another school of thought also that was emerging, and that was the metaphysical school of thought. So in this lecture we are going to talk about John Donne, who was the most representative metaphysical poet. And the word metaphysical was given to was used by different critics later on. It was not at that time that they were called metaphysical. So towards the close, towards the end of Elizabethan age, there were three schools of thought. There was a school of Spenser. These people were the followers. These poets who belonged to the school of Spenser, they followed the conventions set by Edmund Spenser. Then another group was the Cavalier poets. They were the defenders, they were the royalists. On the other hand, we had the metaphysical school of thought, and in metaphysical school of thought there were certain characteristic features of their poetry, and among these we have some of the very famous notable names. There was John Donne, who is the most representative of all the metaphysical poets. He wrote love songs, hymns, elegies and holy sonnets. Moreover, along with John Donne we have George Herbert, Richard Crashaw and Henry Vaughan. So these were the most notable metaphysical poets who belonged to the metaphysical school of thought. Now, there were certain characteristics of their poetry that were known as the characteristics of the metaphysical poetry that made them unique, and due to these characteristics, they were considered as belonging to a separate school of thought. They used a dazzling wordplay. They used words in such a way that it surprised, it astonished the readers. They used wordplay, and they deliberately used these words in such a way to accomplish their purpose of using the words in a different way. They used such comparisons that the reader could not think of. The readers had to think, had to ponder upon to consider the similarity of the comparisons that the poets used. They were explicitly sexual in their comparisons, in their mentioning of the love. Then they used paradoxes that were not very common. They used rare paradoxes. There was subtle argumentation in their poetry. There were surprising contrasts in their poetry. They revealed the intricate psychological analysis. So the poetry had one of the greatest characteristic was the psychological analysis, the complex psychological analysis of the thoughts. They used striking imagery. So imagery is usually used by poets. This is one of the characteristic features that poets use to enhance the understanding, to enhance the vision of the readers. These metaphysical poets, they used imagery. They used not the ordinary conventional imagery. उन्होंने striking imagery, ऐसी imagery use की थी कि उसमें एकदम पहले नजर में रीडर्स को या पहली बार पढ़ते हुए रीडर को ये सोचना पड़ता था कि इसमें क्या कंपैरिजन है, किस तरीके से कंपेयर. बहुत अनकन्वेंशनल कंपैरिजन्स उन्होंने यूज की, अनकन्वेंशनल इमेजरी प्रेजेंट की है. जो इमेजेस, ये जो कंपैरिजन्स पहले पोइट्स दे रहे थे, इन्होंने उससे बहुत हटके इमेजरी प्रेजेंट की थी और ऐसी फील्ड से कंपैरिजन्स लेकर आए थे जो कि पहले यूज नहीं किए जाते थे. फॉर एग्जांपल लॉ और मैथ्स के और लव की जो डिफरेंट एग्जाम्पल्स वो देते थे, वो डिफरेंट फील्ड्स ऑफ फिलॉसफी से. नाउ फिलॉसफी और लव का जो कंपैरिजन है या मैथ्स का, जैसे जॉन डन ने भी अपनी पोएम में, एक पोएम में जो है लवर्स को कंपस के दो पार्ट्स से कंपेयर किया है. नाउ दिस इज समथिंग अनकन्वेंशनल, कि ऐसा कंपैरिजन प्रेजेंट किया है जो कि आमतौर पे नहीं यूज किया जाता है या जिसके बारे में एक आम इंसान नहीं सोच सकता है. फार-फेच्ड आइडियाज हैं कि अगेन almost the same thing, that the ideas are brought together from different fields. Philosophy से और उनके जो comparisons हैं, they are full of reason and logic. और इसी बेसिस पे दे वर एबल टू ब्रिंग इन द फार फेच्ड आइडियाज, जो कि आमतौर पे जिसके बारे में हम नहीं सोचते हैं, जैसे मैथ्स और फिलॉसफी और लॉ और मेडिसिन से भी कंपैरिजंस जो हैं ये लव पोइट्री में, लव सॉन्ग्स में यूज करते थे. Then heterogeneous ideas are combined together. Heterogeneous refers to the variety. Various ideas belonging to different fields, they were combined together in their poetry. Then themes like love were experimented like science in the laboratory. जिस तरह लैब में जो है वो साइंस के एक्सपेरिमेंट्स होते हैं, ये लव को बिल्कुल इसी तरीके से प्रेजेंट करते थे जैसे कि लव को लैब में जो है वो उस पर एक्सपेरिमेंट किया जा रहा हो. These were the different characteristics that characterize them as different from other schools of thought, or they were different from all their predecessors. उनसे पहले जितनी भी पोइट्री हुई थी, उनके बाद में जितनी भी पोइट्री हुई थी, जिस किस्म के comparisons या metaphors या similes, metaphysical poets ने जिस किस्म की imagery और जिस किस्म के comparisons, metaphors और similes में use किए हैं, they are simply outstanding. They cannot be compared to the metaphors and similes of any other age. First, we will have a brief biography of the poet John Donne. He was born in London in 1572. He is the most outstanding metaphysical poet. He is a poet, a theologian and a lawyer. So he was not only a poet, he did not only write poetry, he was a theologian and by profession he was a lawyer also, and sometimes he practiced law also. He was born in a Roman Catholic family. His father was a warden in ironmonger's company. He went to Oxford at the age of 11. and he went to Trinity College, Cambridge, from 1587 to 1589. So he spent 2 years in Cambridge, and he spent some time in Oxford also, but he did not take any degree from these two universities. He attended both the institutes of repute, but he did not take any degree from either of the universities. Then he went to attend Lincoln's Inn in 1592, and at Lincoln's Inn he studied law. वहाँ पर उसने law की तालीम हासिल की, and ultimately he became a lawyer. He entered an Anglican community in 1593, and he traveled to foreign countries in the years 1595 to 1596. During these 2 years he traveled abroad. He was appointed secretary to Sir Thomas Egerton. He was the keeper of the Great Seal in 1598. So Sir Thomas Egerton was appointed. He was given the task of as a keeper of the Great Seal in 1598, and John Donne was appointed as his secretary for this mission. Now this job that he had as a secretary of Sir Thomas Egerton, he was dismissed from this job in 1601. He was fired from this job because of his secret marriage to Anne More. Now Anne More was a niece to Sir Egerton's. Because of this secret marriage, because nobody knew about this marriage, the parents and the other relatives, and she was the niece to Sir Thomas Egerton. Because of this secret marriage, he was fired from his job, and he became jobless, and he had some tough time in his life since he lost his job. He was imprisoned for a short time because of this secret marriage, and after that he was relieved after a very short time, and he worked as a lawyer for the next few years to earn his living. So these were the years in which he had some tough time regarding the financial affairs or regarding the financial position. He found refuge with Sir Francis Woolley, who was Mrs. Donne's cousin at Trafford. He lived at Camberwell for a short time. So he had a disturbed life due to his secret marriage to Anne More, but later on he was able to reconcile with his in-laws. He lived at Mitcham's from 1605 to 1607. For those 2 years he lived at Mitcham. So he kept on moving. After that secret marriage, he kept on moving from place to place in search of some livelihood, in search of some place to live. Then he was employed with Sir Thomas Morton in 1605, and he finally reconciled with his father-in-law in 1608, and in 1608 finally his troubles, the hard times that had started with his secret marriage to Anne More, they finally came to an end in 1608 with the reconciliation with his father-in-law. During this time, some of his greatest poetic accomplishments are the divine poems that were published in 1607, and Beatnatos that was written in 1608, but it was published posthumously in 1644. Posthumously refers to the publication of some work that is available for the public, or that is published for the public after the death of the writer, after the death of the poet. So this collection was published after his death, because John Donne died in 1631, and this work was published in 1644 after his death. And in this work he argued that suicide is not sinful. He did his MA, he took his degree of MA from Oxford in 1610. He resided at the Drury House in 1610 for some time, and while he was staying at the Drury House, he wrote elegy on the death of the 15-year-old Elizabeth Drury, and he wrote 2 elegies on her death. An Anatomy of the World, he wrote that in 1611, and Of the Progress of the Soul, he wrote that in 1612, and by writing these 2 elegies, he was able to gain the favor of Sir Robert Drury. Sir Robert Drury traveled with him on the continent. So this was the instance, the writing of these two elegies on the death of Elizabeth Drury. He was able to get the favor of Sir Robert Drury. He wrote Epithalamion in 1613, and this Epithalamion was written in the honor of the marriage of Rochester and the Countess. So he honored that occasion by writing this poem. He was appointed as the priest of Anglican Church in 1615. He was in the same year he was appointed the royal chaplain. So he became a royal priest in the same year. In 1650 he became the royal priest. He was famous as a preacher for delivering sermons. So during these years, after 1610, he was famous for delivering the religious sermons. So sermon is a religious lecture. He was famous for delivering the religious sermons. Through these sermons, he gained fame as a brilliant and eloquent preacher. His wife died in 1617. He was appointed he was given the title of the Dean of St. Paul's Cathedral in 1621. He became a prolocutor of the Lower House of Convocations in 1621. He held the living of St. Dunstan's in the West from 1624 to 1631. He was not only a poet. We are studying him, or we will study his poetry only, since we are in this course the poetical works are included. But as far as we are discussing his biography, his life history, we will talk about some of his poetic prose works also. That his prose works were also metaphysical in nature, just like his poetry. So his poetry and his prose, they were equally metaphysical, and some of his very famous prose works are these: Juvenilia, or Certain Paradoxes and Problems, Catalogus Librorum Olicorum, Beathanatos, Pseudo-Martyr, Conclave Ignati, Essays in Divinity, and then there were a number of sermons, 3 sermons, 4 sermons, and it is said that he delivered in total 160 sermons, 160 religious lectures, and then letters to several patrons of honors. All these were in the form of essays, and some of these were satirical in nature, whilst others were simple prose works. But the most important characteristic feature of his work, whether that is poetry or prose, it is the metaphysical nature of his work. That he uses the far-fetched ideas, he uses the conceits, he uses the comparisons, striking comparisons that any ordinary individual cannot think of. In his poetry, as far as his poetry is concerned, he uses secular and religious subjects both. And he presents a contrast to the Petrarchan love doctrine of his time, because the conventions were different during those times, and he did not follow the mob psychology. He did not blindly follow the conventions. He was the first one to set a revolt against these set conventions, because during that time the love doctrine was different. In those times the beloved was looked upon as somebody, a deity or a goddess, and the lover was seen as submissive and obedient, and somebody who is ready to do anything whatever the beloved would say. So he revolted against that, and he made fun of this kind of beloved, and that fun, that mockery we find in his poems also. He wrote songs, sonnets, divine poems, elegies, satires, verse letters, and historical epistles. Epistles are kind of letters. So his poetry is set in sharp contrast to the existing traditions of the society. As far as his sermons are concerned, we talked about this earlier also, that he was not only a poet, he was a poet, he was a lawyer by profession, and he was a preacher also. And we have seen in his biography that he became the priest. He became the priest of some of the churches. Then he was appointed as the dean of St. Cathedral's church. He delivered, in total he delivered, or he wrote 160 sermons, and through these sermons he was famous as an eloquent preacher. कि जुबानदानी पर उसको बहुत अबूर हासिल था, और उसकी जो sermons थे they were famous. उसमें बहुत सारी lines ऐसी होती थी जो कि वो बाइबल से कोट किया करता था, और लोग उसको उन lines को इस तरह से वो प्रेजेंट करता था कि लोग उनको याद कर सकते थे. वो मेमोरेबल होती थी, बहुत ज़्यादा उनको रिपीट किया जा सकता था. जो लोग सुनते थे वो उसको दोबारा रिपीट कर सकते थे. सो दोज sermons they were memorable for the biblical passages, and they were based on the theme of divine love, and they also were based on the decay and resurrection of the body. So all these themes were discussed in his religious sermons, and they were memorable. So he was famous as a theologian, as a preacher, and he was famous as a preacher for his eloquent sermons. As far as his poetical works are concerned, there are certain characteristics that make him outstanding. There are certain characteristics that make his work, his poems, uncomparable to the contemporary literature. His poetic works, they are unsurpassable as far as the comparisons, as far as the use of similes and metaphors are concerned. Usually his poems are quite small, they are not very long, and they are tedious, they are hard to deal with. Sometimes it is difficult for the reader to understand in the first instance the comparisons that he uses in his poems. So he uses weird comparisons in his poems, and they are hard to deal with, they are difficult to understand. His poems are wire drawn in their logic, so he uses logic earlier. Now again, this is a characteristic of his poetry which is different from the earlier age, because earlier there was no space for logic in poetry. लॉजिक यूज, उसमें रीजनिंग यूज नहीं की जाती थी कि किस वजह से क्या कंपैरिजन यूज करना है. द अर्लियर पोएट्स गेव मोर इम्पोर्टेंस टू फीलिंग्स एंड द expression of those feelings instead of logic and reasoning. So mind was not involved. वो जो mental capabilities हैं, that was something kept apart from poetry, but he infused logic and reasoning into poetry. But he infused logic and reasoning in his poetry. So it was not only the display of feelings, it was not only something that was coming directly from heart. So the kind of comparisons that he draws, they are based on logic, they are based on reasoning. They are typical of cross-grained. Cross-grained is a comparison which is hard to be dealt with. उसको पढ़ के ऐसा लगता है पहली बार में कि ये कैसा कंपैरिजन है. As I just gave the example of the two parts of a compass, के जैसे एक प्रकार के दो पार्ट्स हैं. He compares the two lovers with the two parts of the compass. So now compass is an image in मैथमेटिक्स. अब मैथ्स का जिन लोगों का कोई रुझान नहीं है, मैथ्स इज अ टोटली डिफरेंट फील्ड. सो ही ब्रिंग्स इन दैट द इमेज ऑफ अ कंपास फ्रॉम मैथमेटिक्स टू say that the two lovers are like they are two bodies in one soul. In order to represent that idea, he brings in the comparison of a compass. So this is the use of the mathematical imagery in his poetry that makes him different, that makes him unique as compared to his contemporaries, as compared to the poets who wrote poetry earlier, because so far there was no use of logic and reasoning in poetry. तो उसने poetry को एक डिफरेंट आर्ट नहीं कहा है. उसने कहा है कि जैसे बाकी आम लाइफ में फिलॉसफी, मैथ्स है, मेडिसिन है, एज दे हैव देयर पार्ट्स, पोइट्री इज नॉट समथिंग सेक्रेट जिसमें सिर्फ इमोशंस और फीलिंग्स की बात होगी. उसने इमोशंस और फीलिंग्स को रिप्रेजेंट करने के लिए डिफरेंट इमेजेस का यूज किया है, और ये इमेजेस उसने डिफरेंट फील्ड से लिए हैं, और वो फील्ड जो हैं वो बहुत डिफरेंट हैं पोइट्री से, लाइक मैथमेटिक्स से, फिलॉसफी से, फिर थियोलॉजी से, रिलीजन से उसने लिए हैं बहुत सारे कंपैरिजंस। देन मेडिसिन से, मेडिसिन इज अ टोटली डिफरेंट फील्ड, सो मेडिसिन से भी उसने बहुत सारे कंपैरिजंस लेके उस रिलेशनशिप को एक्सप्रेस करने की कोशिश की। सो दिस इज समथिंग डिफरेंट, दिस इज समथिंग आउटस्टैंडिंग अबाउट हिज पोइट्री। सो दीज कंसीट्स, ये जो मेटाफर्स हैं, ये जो कंपैरिजंस हैं, जो कि इस कदर डिफरेंट हैं कि जहां पर सिर्फ इमोशंस या फीलिंग्स की बात नहीं हो रही है, वहां पर वो उन इमोशंस और फीलिंग्स को रिप्रेजेंट करने के लिए डिफरेंट कंपैरिजंस यूज कर रहा है, जो कि बहुत फार फेच्ड हैं, जो कि पहली बार सुनने में उससे लगता है कि इसकी कोई ममासलत नहीं होगी, वो उससे किसी तरीके पर भी मिलते जुलते नहीं होंगे। वो ऐसे कंपैरिजंस के थ्रू जो है वो फीलिंग्स और पोइट्री की में फीलिंग्स और इमोशंस को रिप्रेजेंट कर रहा है। He uses unconventional analogies and comparisons. उसने जो भी एनालॉजी यूज की है, जो भी कंपैरिजन उसमें यूज किया है, दिस इज अनकन्वेंशनल। किसी ने भी किसी एज में पहले पोइट्री में इस तरह के कंपैरिजंस, मेटाफर्स या सिमिलीज या एनालॉजीज यूज नहीं किए हैं। वो कंपैरिजन उसने दो चीजों का जो है, सिंस ही वाज अ थियोलॉजियन, ही वाज अ लॉयर, तो उसका जो फील्ड ऑफ एक्सपीरियंस थी दैट वाज वास्ट। और उसके अलावा नॉट ओनली फील्ड ऑफ एक्सपीरियंस, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल हिज फील्ड ऑफ एक्सपीरियंस वाज वास्ट। दूसरा एलिज़ाबेथन एज की वजह से, क्योंकि एलिज़ाबेथन ही वाज बोर्न टुवर्ड्स द एंड ऑफ द एलिज़ाबेथन एज, ही वाज इन्फ्लुएंस्ड बाय ऑल दोज एलिमेंट्स ड्यूरिंग दैट वर टेकिंग प्लेस, और ऑल दोज कैरेक्टरिस्टिक फीचर्स ऑफ द एलिज़ाबेथन एज। वो जो उसमें मटेरियलिज्म था, वो जो मादियत थी, वो उन सारे एलिमेंट से बहुत अच्छे तरीके से इन्फ्लुएंस्ड भी था। वो जो एक क्वेस्ट फॉर नॉलेज थी या थर्स्ट फॉर नॉलेज थी, टू डिस्कवर ह्यूमनिज्म था, उन एलिमेंट से ही वॉज इंस्पायर्ड। दो ही हैड हिज इंडिविजुअलिटी, ही हैड हिज आउटस्टैंडिंग फिगर ऑल्सो दैट रिप्रेजेंटेड हिम एज द मोस्ट रिप्रेजेंटेटिव ऑफ द मेटाफिजिकल पोइट्स। ही यूजेस इमेजरी, his poems are short and compact, but the imagery that he uses, he draws them from various sources, and these sources may include circles. He uses some of the images are drawn from circles, from maps, from engravings, from elephants, from fleas, from whales, and from even the new discoveries. So his imagery is drawn from all these sources and from the various subjects also, as we just discussed, कि हर तरह के सब्जेक्ट से, मेडिसिन से, थियोलॉजी से, लॉ से, फिलॉसफी से, हर तरह के सब्जेक्ट से उसने इमेजरी ड्रॉ की है, उसने कंपैरिजंस उसमें लेकर आए हैं। इवन मैथमेटिक्स से, हर तरह की फील्ड से जो कंपैरिजंस थे ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ लॉजिक एंड रीजनिंग। ये नहीं कि वो किसी तरह से मैच ही नहीं करते थे, मैच जरूर करते थे, सिमिलैरिटी जरूर थी, लेकिन वो इस कदर फार फेच्ड आइडियाज थे कि उसके बारे में एक डीप अंडरस्टैंडिंग चाहिए। पहली बार पढ़ते हुए ऐसा लगता है कि ये कंपैरिजन तो बनता ही नहीं है, मैथ्स का इसमें कहां से, कंपास का जिक्र इसमें कहां से आ गया। बट इफ वी क्लोजली एनालाइज, देयर आर सिमिलैरिटीज, और वो सिमिलैरिटीज दे आर नॉट बेस्ड ऑन इमोशंस और फीलिंग्स। वो इमोशंस और फीलिंग्स पे बेस नहीं कर रही हैं, वो लॉजिक और रीजनिंग पे बेस कर रही है। एंड दिस इज द रीजन दैट ही इज एबल टू ब्रिंग इन दीज फार फेच्ड आइडियाज, दिस इज द रीजन ही इज एबल टू ब्रिंग इन दीज conceits and metaphors. In his poetry we find immaculate rhythm, though he brings in all these different fields. उसने हर फील्ड से जो comparisons हैं अपने नॉलेज की बेसिस पे, अपने एक्सपोजर की बेसिस पे, या जिस फील्ड के, जिस एरा के एंड में वो लिख रहा था, उसकी बेसिस पे, इन तमाम फैक्टर्स की बेसिस पे ही वॉज एबल टू ब्रिंग इन द फ्यूजन ऑफ डिफरेंट एलिमेंट्स इनटू हिज पोइट्री। लेकिन इस फ्यूजन की वजह से उसका रिदम अफेक्ट नहीं हुआ था। स्टिल देयर वॉज रिदम, देयर वॉज मैचलेस रिदम इन हिज पोइट्री। वो अनसरपासेबल था, उसका रिदम फिर भी बरकरार था, वो पोइट्री ही लगती थी। मतलब रीजनिंग और लॉजिक की वजह से उसका रिदम डिस्ट्रॉय नहीं हुआ था। लैक्स स्मूथनेस एंड डिग्निटी, as we talked earlier, that since they were explicit in their mentioning of love and love affairs, so it lacked dignity. On the other hand, smoothness was not there, because the poems were short and concise, and they brought in comparisons from different fields. तो उसमें बहुत ज़्यादा concreteness आ गई थी उसमें. poem में ideas का hierarchical order smooth नहीं था. Obsessed during the last years of his life, he was obsessed with the idea of death, and he preached death's duel. It was a kind of conflict between the soul and the body, and later on some of the critics, they said that this sermon, Death's Duel, was his own funeral sermon. He finally died in London on 31st March 1631. So this was brief biography of John Donne. In this course, we will study some of the love songs and holy sonnets by John Donne. These love songs, they include Go and Catch a Falling Star and Love's Alchemy. We will study the various characteristic features of his poetry, since he is the most representative of all the metaphysical poets. So we will we will figure out those elements of metaphysical poetry in these poems. Then we talked about his holy sonnets. We talked about his sermons, that he wrote almost 160 sermons. They are famous for their eloquent style and for being memorable in their style. In this course, Sonnet 1 and Sonnet 10 of his holy sonnets of his religious sermons are included. Sonnet 1 is Thou hast made me, shall thy work decay, and Sonnet 10 is Death be not proud. So these, and we will analyze the characteristic features of his metaphysical poetry in his love songs, and the eloquence and the memorable lines of holy sonnets, that characteristic we will analyze in his holy sonnets. Then in his poetry we find, though he was born towards the end of the Elizabethan era, we find some of the characteristics of humanism in his poetry. So it is both some elements of humanism, but his individuality is still retained, because he does not embody, he rebels against those conventions, set conventions of Elizabethan age. So some of the characteristic features we find in him, but some others he had rebelled against and he had set his own conventions. Elizabethan times में जो characteristic features थे, जो poetry के, जो different prose writings के, he follows some of those conventions. कुछ हमें इसमें उसकी पोइट्री में कैरेक्टरिस्टिक फीचर्स हमें उसकी पोइट्री में भी मिलते हैं, उसके लव सॉन्ग्स में, उसके होली सॉनेट्स में, लेकिन कुछ कन्वेंशंस ऐसी थी, he did not agree with those conventions. कुछ ऐसे हाई आइडियल्स थे जो कि रेनेसां के दौरान जो हैं वो उनको उसी तरीके से परसीव किया जाता था, एंड डिफरेंट राइटर्स फॉलोड देम एज दे वर. उन्होंने एक मॉब साइकोलॉजी की तरह, जिस तरह से जो सेट ट्रेडिशन थी उसी को फॉलो किया था. लेकिन जॉन डन ने बहुत सारे ऐसे आइडियाज थे, ही डिड नॉट अग्री विद दोज आइडियाज, पर्टिकुलरली द आइडिया ऑफ लव एंड द स्टेटस ऑफ women in love. He did not agree with that, and he made fun of it, and he held his own idea of love. So the first element of humanism that we find in his poetry, in his poems, is the hunger for knowledge. He reveals a thirst for unraveling the mystery of existence. हमें इसमें भी एक ऐसी unending एक thirst नजर आती है कि ड्यूरिंग द एलिज़ाबेथन एज हर कोई ये जानने की कोशिश कर रहा था कि एग्जिस्टेंस की मिस्ट्री क्या है, ट्रूथ क्या है, इसकी हकीकत क्या है, जिंदगी की क्या हकीकत है. सो वी ऑल्सो फाइंड दैट सर्च फॉर ट्रूथ इन हिज पोइट्री. Then his attitude towards love, he talked about love in his poetry, but the treatment of love is unconventional. It was different from the already existing attitude towards love. He differed from Elizabethan love poetry. During the Elizabethan time, the tradition was to write in an epic form. He did not write any epic poetry. He wrote love songs, and he wrote sermons, and he wrote some of the prose works that were satirical. So he did not follow that convention of writing in that particular style. He did not follow the convention of the epic poetry. Then his treatment of love was also different. He rejected the lofty cult of women. He rejected that status that was given to women in love. During the Elizabethan times, the women, the beloved, was given a high status. They were considered, or they were treated as a deity or a goddess, and the hero or the lover was shown as somebody who is always submissive, obedient, who is ready to do whatever the beloved would say, and he is always ready to do what the beloved says, what the beloved asks him to do. So he rejected all those ideals of women, and he in a number of his poems he mocked this idea of treating the women as the deity or the goddess. So the intellectual genius of John Donne lied in his rebellion against the set conventions. He challenged those conventions, and he presented the idea of a different sort of love, and he treated the beloved in a different way. It was the treatment of love was not the same. He talked about love, but the treatment of love was different from the Elizabethan age. And his idea of true love was that love is the merger of two souls, and he presented the idea that it was love is like two bodies, one soul. So that idea was different, because earlier the concept that was presented, he rebelled against that, he challenged, and he wrote opposite to that idea. Moreover, in those days, another common belief was that the scientists, they talked about alchemy. They said that we can convert the baser metals into gold, and he discussed that idea in his poems also. In those days, one of the important characteristic was that scientists claimed that they could convert the baser metals into gold. The baser metals like silver or bronze or the iron, it could be converted to gold. So this field was known as alchemy, and he used these ideas in his poetry also. So there was more of the materialistic attitude towards the world, and this materialistic attitude, this conversion of the baser metals like iron into gold, is also utilized in his poetry. In his poem Love's Alchemy, he talks about the love as and he brings in a comparison from alchemy, where the baser metals can be converted into gold, and he talks about elixir also, which is as we call it in Urdu, Aab-e-Hayat. Let's have a review of lecture 22. We talked about John Donne, that he belonged to the metaphysical school of thought. He is the most representative of all the metaphysical poets, and his poems embody all the characteristics of metaphysical poetry. Then we talked about his biography, that he was born in London, and he attended Oxford and Cambridge for some time, but he did not get any degree from there. Then he got some job, he got married to Anne More, and so he had some of the financial crisis also in his life because of his secret marriage to Anne More. He was dismissed from his job, he was fired from his job. These were the years in which he suffered some of the financial problems, and he had to work as a lawyer. He practiced sometimes as a lawyer. During those years, he wrote some of his famous works. Then finally he moved from place to place. Finally, he reconciled with his father-in-law in 1608, and it brought an end to his difficulties because of that had risen because of his secret marriage to Anne More. Later on, we find that he was appointed as a priest in the church, in the royal church also. He became dean of the Roman Catholic Church. As far as his literary works are concerned, he did not only produce poetry, he produced some of the greatest prose works also, and his poetry and prose, they are equally characteristic of the metaphysical elements in it. So his prose has got the metaphysical elements in it. By metaphysical, as we just discussed, that it refers to the use of far-fetched ideas. ऐसे metaphors, comparisons और similes का इस्तेमाल जो कि आम तौर पर जिसके बारे में हम नहीं सोच सकते, जैसे कि medicine से law, theology, religion. So all these are the fields that are different from poetry. Poetry में हम expression of feelings की, emotions की बात करते हैं, हम अपने passions की बात करते हैं. So he combined, he fused these two together. उसने और बहुत logic और reason को use करते हुए बहुत practical comparisons दिए हैं. But usually such practical comparisons are not favored, are not advocated in the field of literature. Another part of his works, another greater part of his works is the religious sermons. He delivered almost 160 sermons, and these sermons were very famous because they were memorable, because of the instances of the memorable biblical lines. There were references from Bible in these sermons, and in these divine sermons, he talked about the theme of divine love and resurrection of the decay and resurrection of the body. So his sermons are famous for their eloquence. Then as far as the elements of humanism are concerned, as we just discussed, that he was born towards the end of the Elizabethan era. So some of the elements of humanism are also found in his poetry, but he did not follow all the conventions of Elizabethan era. He revolted against them. The tradition was to write in epic form. He did not write any epic. He wrote short poems, and in these short poems there were certain merits and certain demerits. One of the important element of humanism was the quest for knowledge, was the discovering of the truth of the existence of life, कि वो जिंदगी की हकीकत मालूम करना चाहते थे. So that quest for knowledge, that quest for knowing the truth of the mystery of existence, that is found in Donne's poetry also. But there are certain conventions that Donne did not agree with, and he did not use or he revolted against those ideas, and he presented a point of view that is different from the Elizabethan poetry. For example, the treatment of love is different in his poetry. He talked about love, he talked about the feelings and passions, but that was different. He gave it a concrete form, and he brought in the comparisons, the conceits and comparisons that were far-fetched from different fields, and he used comparisons from the field of mathematics, from the field of theology, religion, law, from medicine. So he used comparisons from all these different fields. And another important element that was different from the Elizabethan age or from humanism in the treatment of love was the position of two people. For example, the lover and the beloved. The beloved in Elizabethan era was given a status like that of a deity or a goddess who was given a high stature, and the man was supposed to follow, was very submissive. He was made to be subservient, who was always ready to sacrifice, who was always ready to do what the beloved would say. He rejected that idea, and he revolted against such set conventions, and he mocked in a number of his poems. We find the idea that even in the poem Go and Catch a Falling Star, and in certain other poems also, he seems to be making fun of this idea of he seems to be making fun of this ideal status that was given to women, and he treated them as two equal beings. This is the reason that he was able to bring in a different perspective about love in his poetry. Moreover, other than the status of women, So he revolted against the set traditions and he presented a different idea by bringing in comparison from different fields. Donne's individuality, as we just discussed, that we find some characteristic features of the age in which he was born, because he was born towards the end of the Elizabethan era. Some of the characteristics we still find, the materialistic aspect we still find in his poetry, but he revolted against the certain traditions, against the certain set conventions in the society. His treatment of love was different. His the status that he gave to women in his poetry, that was different. And he brought in comparisons. Earlier there was expression of feelings and there was ample space given to emotions, but he did not give any space to such things. He relied on, instead of emotions and feelings, he relied more on logic, he relied more on reason, and on the basis of logic and reason he was able to bring in comparisons from different fields, from various fields of practical life. उसने religion से, law से, philosophy से, medicine से, हर field से examples दिए हैं, and that we shall see, that we will discuss in his poems also, that what type of comparisons he uses and what makes him outstanding as a metaphysical poet. किस तरह के comparison उसने use किए हैं जिसकी basis पे उसको एक representative poet of metaphysical school of thought कहा जा सकता है. So John Donne's individuality does not lie only in writing poetry or bringing in different sorts of comparisons into it. The kind of prose that he writes, that is also symbolic of his, that is also indicative of his genius. His poetry and his prose both were equally metaphysical in nature, and even his religious sermons, since he belonged to the religious, he was a great theologian also, who was famous as an eloquent preacher also. So even his sermons, even in his sermons, he was his individuality is maintained in poetry, in prose, and in his sermons also, in three of the fields. So whatever he did, he maintained in his individuality in all his works, no matter that was the field of poetry or that was the field of prose, or that was the job of delivering religious sermons. So he was equally good at three of the different fields. So today we have talked about John Donne's characteristic features of his poetry. We have talked about his biography, his works, and since we are concerned with the metaphysical school of thought of poetry, so we will discuss some of his poems, some of his love songs, and some of his holy sonnets. Allah Hafiz.